Hello, I'm Devin. Welcome to my YouTube channel. And today I want to chat about the Zettelkasten. Before I dive in, I want to introduce you to Zeke. This is Zeke. Let's see if I can show you his name tag. Zeke. He is my Zettelkasten. Oops. He has a growing number of cards right in here. And this is the index. I keep bumping my camera. In hindsight, this is not the best way to show off my Zettelkasten, but here is the index. A growing list of identifiers. Now, in many ways, this is Zeke as he is getting his adult set of teeth. You see, this is kind of my second round of building out an analog Zettelkasten, built on Scott Schepper's book, Antinet Zettelkasten, which if you've never, I would really recommend going to his site. I'll just say, Scott, your site's kind of annoying to use because it's, full of your marketing brilliance. It's just really hard, it felt like, to get a copy of the book, but I got one of my own. It is like 569, nearly 600 pages. Very well worth it to understand how to do a Zettelkasten properly. And so I got this. I read it nearly a year ago now, cover to cover. I just dropped everything else I was doing and read this book. It was great. Super great experience. Highly recommend. And then I got started. And do you know what? I think I had nearly 400 cards. Here they are. This is, I don't know how many cards this is. But I got started building my Zettelkasten. And it was so much fun. But then it wasn't so much fun. I was having some friction built into my system that I didn't really understand. And so that's why I have now started round 2 to learn from my mistakes, which I want to share with you. I've seen a number of videos on YouTube about people who've gotten into Zettelkastening, anti-netting, becoming an anti-netter, and I enumerated them. Boom! I realized I really just needed to change 5 little things, and my Zettelkasten experience improved dramatically. Before I dive in, I'm going to be holding this pen. Why do I do that? When I was in speech class in high school, it was part of the textbook, or I don't know if it was in the textbook, or our teacher told us that having a pen in your hand can increase your feelings of self-confidence when giving a presentation. And so I have nearly always had a pen in my hand when I do public speaking for that reason. I don't know why, it just helps a lot. It's great. And I'm good pointing stuff. So, things that bothered me. Number 1, citations. Scoot this out of the way. So, if you read Scott's book, he has examples of citations on the cards. And right, you should have a citation whenever you're recording information that's not your original thought. And as I noticed, it seemed like he used a system where it's like the last name of the author and maybe the first word of the title. And the whole point is you need a unique identifier here that can point you back to your bibliography in your bib box. I did something like that. And so here, this is the definition, the sacrament of reconciliation. And so I was writing something to denote the author, something to denote the title and the publisher, and then the page. And this got exhausting. It was just so much to write. And I just wanted to stop doing it, but I hadn't come up with a better system yet. And so it was one reason kind of petered out writing cards. Now, as you can see from this one, I have given every single source that's in my bib box an identifier. So it gets its own address, and it's an address that's memorable. And so here, this is Getting Things Done. So I'm rereading Getting Things Done by David Allen. And so I could have done it the traditional way of Allen and Getting and the published date, GTD 2015, like cool in the page numbers if I was writing a card. However, I went ahead and wrote on my bib card just what I'm going to call it. And the way I do it is I just do 3 capital letters and a number. So therefore, if in the future I have another source that deserves the GTD 3, then I can give it number 2. Maybe I want to also read the original version. So this is the 2015 version, but there's an older version. Maybe I'll read that someday because it is different, and that might be GTD 2. And I also have the GTD workbook. It's on a shelf over there. Maybe I'll use that as a source, and I'll have GTD 3. I don't know. But the point being is it's just so easy for me to remember GTD. And then as I'm writing out cards, I could just write GTD 1 and the page number for my citation and just move along. So that has been great. It also has created a system where, I have books that I need multiple bib cards. You saw that previous one, the Catechism of the Catholic Church is like 600 pages, and it is super thorough. And so I found myself, I've got multiple bib cards from that. Is this one of them? What is this from? This is from a document by Pope Leo XIII. But you can see, it's turned into 3 bib cards. 3 bib cards. And so I haven't processed these observations to make main cards from them, but I needed a way to keep these together. My whole thing is, if I dropped my Zettelkasten and had to reassemble it, could I? And so the really simple path forward is just in that address, just to do the same thing as I do with my main cards. And so GTD1 is the original card, and then it's 1A, and then 1B. And so if I've got, just imagine you have an encyclopedia, or the Summa Theologica by Thomas Aquinas. It's a ginormous 3-volume book. I can just add A, B, C, and just keep going. Just keep going, and just always know where I'm going to file them in my bib box and never have to worry about it. You could also, I guess, do branching and stuff in your bib box. It's kind of ridiculous, but my whole point was I want a quick moniker to know which bibliography, which card in my bib box has the bib information, which is right there, and then a way to keep all my bib cards together when they span multiple pages. That's been super helpful to maintaining velocity. All right. Number 2, a digital versus analog bib box. So Shepard notes that there are lots of resources like articles on websites, anything with a URL attached, really. It's so much easier to just take your observation notes digitally and to keep your bibliography info digitally, because whenever you actually go to type something out where you'll need that in footnotes, you're going to be doing it digitally anyway. You might there's really not a good reason to handwrite a long URL onto a bib card. So just keep it digitally, which I think, yeah, great. He was using Zotero in the book. Lots of people love Zotero. And so he had noted that at the bottom of his cards, when he did it, he would put a B to indicate, hey, the bib card for this resource is physical, and it's in the bib box in my Zettelkasten. The R, I don't remember why he picked an R. I could go look that up, but I'm not going to. The R indicated that it was, I think it's an external reference, xref. Anyway, it's digital. And so this meant that this resource is in Zotero on his computer if you needed to go get the full bibliography. And I thought that was great, except I don't like having to think, in the moment, have to map myself to 2 different things. So all I've been doing is on my bib card, I have my identifier. So this is getting things done, 2015. So GTD1. And then if I have a additional information that lives in my digital bib box, which I keep in Obsidian, I just have a note that says see sources support, because that's what I called the folder of markdown files that have that extra bibliography information. And that tells me to go to Obsidian docs. The main reason is I wanted my physical bib box to be my single source of truth for my bibliography. And I have a little diagram to kind of chart out why that makes sense for me. So when you need your bibliography when it's time to retrieve information, right? So it's like when I'm putting information into my Zettelkasten, just need to remember where it came from. Otherwise, I don't care. However, I want to do my future self a favor when it's time to write a blog post or make a YouTube video. I need to get those citations so my audience can keep me honest. So here's the process for retrieval. I begin with my index. And so in this case, I'm saying, hey, virtue. And let's say my entry point is card address 3AB2. And so I go to 3AB2. Great, there's my definition of virtue. And the citation is SUM1. I go to, and then I've got the little ellipsis there. That refers just to say I'd put my page number and whatever other citation info there. That brings me to my physical bib card, also addressed SUM1, and it is the Summa Theologica by Thomas Aquinas. And on that, I have a note that says, see sources support. Now, this is important because two reasons. One, this is actually a Kindle book. I did not spend $150 to get a physical copy. I found a good enough Kindle edition. And two, the Summa Theologica, being an ecclesiastical resource, you do not cite it the same way you would a standard book. You don't just use page numbers. You refer to like section numbers and book numbers and question numbers and article numbers within that and there's all this whole nomenclature. So what do I have? I have here that just says, it says, see sources support. I should pull this out for you. I should show you the real one. This is what it looks like. Just right there. See SUM1 in sources support. That's what I wrote. That brings me, if I can do it two ways. I can go to, I have a document that's kind of like my master list of everything I've done this with, and I have an entry SUM1. And then that is just a pointer, though, to a document called SUM1.md, or it's like, in reality, it's SUM1 dash Summa Theologica Aquinas or something like that, so I know what it is. But it's got the full bibliography information, and then a very long, detailed set of instructions of how to make accurate citations with that document, because it's so complex. But here's the point, is I never need to look at this until after I've gone here. I never begin here. I always begin up here, either in my main cards or in my index. And then I make my way into just when I need it. Just when I need it. So this is all to say, just using a little address instead of writing it out longhand, lifesaver. It's been amazing. All right, next up, addressing and branching. So if you recall, if you've dived into Scott's information, he has addresses that have all these delimiters between them. He uses a slash. You can use hyphens or dashes or period, whatever. He uses slashes in the book. And I was doing that, kind of. I remember I was always thinking that there was this unspoken rule that when I had a new idea, right, when I'm going to initiate a new branch, I need a slash. But here's the problem I ran into. I could never predict when exactly I would need a branch. I just couldn't. And so, and additionally, I started with I was using the Dewey Decimal System for my top level numbers, and it just became exhausting to try to pick, well, what number should that fit into based on the Dewey Decimal System? And so I think Scott's using, I don't remember, what's like the academic map of knowledge or whatever from Wikipedia. He had this top level number, and then he established the branches within it as it worked its way down. It didn't work for me. I moved to a system where I begin just with the number 1. Actually, I began with 0 and work my way up. But I'll show you I'm going to grab an example here from Zeke. It'll be great. Yeah, this will be a good example. Ah. Where's one? Snap, did I lose it? So I picked my first top level topic, virtue. Virtue, it's a very big topic. It can become very big. And so it gets the big ol' number 1. Great. Then, instead of doing 1/1, I very simply go with, oh, the first card inside of virtue is 1A. And here, this is from old Zettelkasten, so I redid the citation and stuff. But 1A. And then, after that, I don't even remember what's after that. Oh, I have a further definition. And so this becomes 1A1. Why? Because I want the definition from the Catechism of the Catholic Church I want it to live next to the definition I got from the dictionary. 1A1. And then we can go on to 1B. Human virtues. And this is a distinction. It's a definition from the Catechism. And then moral virtues. And then what else? The 4 cardinal virtues. You see, 1D. We're just going like one letter at a time. Just keeping it smooth. And then look, the four cardinal virtues. And I could have made a new branch here, but I didn't, because I didn't need to. I can just go, hey, next, let's just have the next subsequent card be about the 4 cardinal virtues, 1E. But then, let's find if I have 1D in here. Yeah, or 1F. No, I don't have 1F. Here's 1F. 1F is the 7 contrary virtues. So, at first, these two went together, right? Just working through the virtues, we've got this category of 4 cardinal virtues, and then I was like, all right, then we got the 7 contrary virtues, the 7 lively virtues, or capital, whatever you call them. But then I was like, oh, in between these, I'm going to actually enumerate the virtues and give the definitions. Therefore, that organically became a branch of 1E1, 1E2, 1E3, 3, and 4. And I think in here I have some notes that got attached because temperance, is also a lively virtue. So 1E4A is a link over there. So I'm going to show you in real time how this works, because I know addressing has been a big problem. So let's just recreate virtue really quick. So this is how it works. If I'm starting Zettelkasten fresh, and I'm like, one of the big topics I'm going to explore is virtue. There's a lot in there. I've got several books and articles and lectures and podcasts. Virtue, great. So I'm just saying, virtue, just need something here. Maybe you might even just use this for like the dictionary definition of the word virtue if you wanted, but whatever. Virtue, 1. Great. Then, first topic is the definition from the dictionary. And it's the next card. So it's just going to go to the next spot. The next spot is called 1A. Numeric alpha. We just alternate. Great. Virtue, 1A. Then, just for fun, let's say we keep researching and I go, oh, there's this other definition. The Catechism of Virtue. That's going to be 1B. See? It's very simple so far. Don't worry, this is going somewhere, I promise. Let's do another one. Let's just say there are 2 categories of virtue. If I can spell. 2 categories of virtue. There are theological virtues and there are human virtues. Great. And then I move on. Oh, did I address that? I think I forgot to address it. But that's 1C. 1C. And then let's say if after this maybe I'm gonna say I'll just say Thomas Aquinas. Right? I want to now talk about Thomas Aquinas on virtue. And I have maybe I have a lot to say there. But that can just be 1D. That's where we are. 1D. Okay. So I've covered some initial stuff, but look, we're just 1 level deep. My addresses are so simple. So simple, and they're all unique. Now let's throw a wrench into this. Okay? Let's throw a wrench into this. I come back and I go, you know what? I want to list the virtues. And so I go, the 3 theological virtues are faith, hope, charity. Right, so that's a card. And then I go, the human virtues are, and then maybe, I write a bunch of who knows what. I go, okay, the thing is, I want those to live underneath here. I want them to go right behind here before I talk about Thomas Aquinas. This is their home. So I'm very simple. I'm just going to call it, since I use a number and then a letter, the next thing I'm going to do is add a number. So this will be 1C1 and then 1C2. Cool. There they go. Address is complete. They're in their right spot. Ta-da! See how simple that was? Now let's keep going. Just for fun. Let's just pretend this is 3 cards because I don't want to waste too many more. But let's say I want to have one that goes into each of those virtues. So I've got 3 cards. They maybe have nice long definitions, explanations from something. And I go, all right, I want these 3 to live between these 2 cards. Well, no, I was using a number. I'm just going to switch to a letter. So this will be 1C1A, and then after it will be 1C1B, and then 1C1C. And then those 3 will live right here. And now, so see, everything's staying organized the way that I want it. Everything so far has a unique address, and branches are organically organizing themselves. Now I'm going to throw a wrench into this. Let's say I want to add a note about the virtues. Let's say there's a controversy in history of what should the 3 virtues be or something like that. I don't know. I haven't found anything like that, but let's say that I did. And so this is a note that's why, maybe this is why 3. Now here's my problem. I want this note to go right here. But my problem is I already have a 1C1A and I already have a 1C2. So how am I going to do that? Well, it's very simple. I'm going to go 1C1 dot 1. And so the way that I've been doing my addresses is I only use the delimiter if I have two numbers which need to be separated. So easy. I guess in theory you could do this with letters too, but there's no need to do it with letters because the number takes a priority. At least I don't know of a reason that it needs to be letters. So it's not 11, it's 1 and then another 1. And guess what? That's going to go in right here. And then 1, the numeric ones lead, and then the letters come after it. But this is where it gets fun, is because what happens if I go, uh-oh, I have another note. I just discovered a new fact, and I need it to go here. New fact. I've got a new fact, and I need it to go between 1C1 and 1C11. How do I get it there? Some of you already ahead of me. We're going to do 1C1.0. Easy enough? Let's do one more. The best part about numbers is they are infinite in both directions. So here's some other controversial thing that I uncovered in my research. Controversial thing. And I wanted to go right between, clean up my notes here a little bit. I've gotten all crazy. I want it to go between 1C1 and 1C1.0. I'm going to call this new one then 1C1.1. Ha ha ha. Ta-da! Simple. Simple, simple, simple. And as you can see, if I have a new thought that needs to go, right, further detail on the controversial thing, that would become 1C1.-1A. And then B, and then C, and then you just start working your way down. Okay. And right, if the address becomes too long, then you can just use a link to set it, instead of saying like, right, 1A, 5C, 10B, it's like 15 characters long. You could just redirect back up to something closer to the top level with a link. It's really great. But that's how, that was key for me, is no more trying to decide when a slash is appropriate. We're just going to alternate. We're going to start with a number, and then a letter, then a number, then a letter, and there's a place to use numbers again. It's just, all it is making sure every card has a unique address, and we'll put it where it belongs in the collection. All right, moving on. The next point, selection. Selection is, in Scott's book, I think it's great, actually. I think his comments on selection are a brilliant place to begin. And one is to avoid the collector's fallacy, and I definitely fell into this, where you're just creating cards for the sake of creating cards. You think that you have some sort of responsibility to the world to accumulate everything that has ever been known into your Zettelkasten. And that's not true. So avoid that. The classifier's fallacy, I've fallen into this, is really trying to get everything in just exactly the right spot. That was happening to me with the addressing that I just talked about. And then finally, Scott talks about really focusing on the irresistible ideas. And so it was hard for me to know what is an irresistible idea. How do I rank that? What's the criteria? It wasn't obvious. So as I revised that, I have kind of a new system that guides me in my selection process. Number one is there needs to be a topic. And so virtue is a good one. Virtue is it's a nice topic, as good as any. I've also have in there as my top level topics like productivity and entrepreneurship and entelechy, which is a Greek word for like personal development. Entelechy. This is such a fun word. Okay. So, pick a topic. Then I'm asking a question in that topic, something that I could answer And then as I think through the path to answering it, I'm looking for the minimum viable path to a suitable answer. And from there, I'm going to have a source. I want to pick like one thing at a time to read or watch or listen to. Now, here is the big question. Now, even if you have one single source and you're focused, how do you still make sure that you're gravitating towards the irresistible ideas? And it's so simple. Raise the cost of recording the idea. If you raise the cost of recording the idea, you will naturally gravitate towards the most valuable of them. And so here's 3 ways to raise the cost. I just realized this is an important one. So number 1 is I actually got a thicker pen. So I was using a really, really tiny pointed pen, but I noticed that allowed me I could put so much information on a single card. It let me record kind of more than I really needed to, spending a lot more time writing. And so using a thicker pen, this is a Precise V5. It says extra fine, but it's not as fine as some of the other pens I have. It required me to blow up my words, and therefore I had to think more carefully about what got recorded. It's because my handwriting couldn't be so tiny. Second, the limitation of just being in physical media in general. Like it takes time for me to like grab a card. When I get out of note cards, it takes time for me to open this up. I gotta buy these. Therefore, it's a limiting factor. And another one is time limits. I'm not very good at this right now, but if let's say you've only got 30 minutes, if you're a busy professional and with a family, you say, realistically, I can only study for 30 minutes a day. Okay, you could not possibly record everything in that 30 minutes. So the time constraint will additionally force you to optimize, and you will find yourself, without really trying, you will find yourself gravitating towards the irresistible ideas as you look at what to record. And then the way that I treat the bib, I'm very generous as I'm reading with the notes I take on the bibliography. So this is from Getting Things Done. I'm only like 1.5 chapters in, and I've got 2/3 of a bib card filled. I'm probably going to have a bunch of bib cards. But I look at these are just candidates for what might come back. And when I come back and look at these, it will become clear of like, yeah, I don't want to spend the time looking that up again and writing out a card about it. But there'll be other ones I'll be like, I absolutely have to write a card about that one. And so these are just candidates to pick from in the future, and the cost of recording it is what causes you to gravitate toward the idea that you're looking for. All right, number 5, a goal. Like I mentioned before, it's kind of all over the place, falling in the collector's fallacy, and I found that I didn't have a very clear goal. And why was I building out a Zettelkasten to begin with? So, here's how I was before. I just want to fill up the Zettelkasten. Get to 1,000 cards as quickly as possible so I can develop the second mind that Scott talks about. I decided no, it's not working for me. I lose steam, you get like bursts of enthusiasm and then they dry out. I was keeping score. I would keep count of how many cards I added on any given day. As I reflect, I think that really hurt me because the quality of those cards suffered. When you're trying to amplify the quantity of cards, you take shortcuts on the quality of cards. So I need to settle in on a goal. And this video, I'm not going to articulate what my goal is. There will be future videos that I think I'll talk about that in depth. But now, here's how I arrived at my goal, and so maybe this will help you. I found there are certain subjects that it seems like everyone else is talking around. There's something that I care about, that I know other people care about, but it just doesn't seem like anyone has taken the time to connect the dots. And so I articulated that goal for myself and allow it to be a guiding principle on asking, is this even a topic that would matter? Here's my goal. Is this a topic that will contribute to my goal? Is this a topic that will I can ask important questions within that will relate to my goal. Going back to my selection process of asking a good question inside of a topic. Super helpful. And so, additionally, consider who have I met people in real life that if I were to take the time to understand and produce this thing, would they care enough to read it? And in my case, I'm like, yes. I've run into lots of people that care about my thing. And I think you have a thing too. Everyone probably has a thing. And then finally, I still am keeping score, but I keep score of the pens. The ink spilled. So this is my first pen. I'm about halfway through it. But I've got a spot in my Zettelkasten that I'm going to keep a pen graveyard. I have fountain pens I could refill, but I was just like, the ink actually expended represents the quantity of thought. Not the quantity of cards, but the quantity of thought. Some of that ink might fill an entire... So like, some of the ink is on the bib card, right? This represents thought spent while reading. Some of the ink, most of the ink though, will go into the cards, and I don't discriminate. Some of it will be reformulation notes and direct quotations pulled straight out of the resources. But in writing, you are thinking about it, and then a lot of it is reflection notes, and then links and lists and da-da-da-da-da. The point is, it is the ink spilled that can be attached to the quantity of thought that has been deployed on your whatever your big goal is. And so that's where I'm keeping score with the pens, and I am being particular in making sure that I pick a pen, and I use that pen until it's done. And then I get out a new pen. I just keep this sitting either with the book, right? I'll just clip it onto the book I'm reading, whoop, or leave it on my Zettelkasten or whatever. And then I've got the little graveyard where I keep my score when I'm done. So, I hope that's useful. Those are 5 things that bothered me the first time I tried a Zettelkasten. As I've shifted it around now, it's been a much better experience. I hope that'll be useful for some of y'all out there. Peace.